G'day everyone, welcome to this episode, and today with me I have Michel Bouman, who is the Channel Sales Manager. Are you Channel Sales Manager? Just Channel Sales for Microsoft Teams. So welcome to the show, Michel.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you again. It's been a minute.
Yes, it has been a minute. Now, tell me, for the people that are tuning in, watching, listening, wherever they're consuming this, tell me a little bit about yourself and your role at Microsoft.
Sure. Yeah, so my name is Michel Bouman. I've been with Microsoft for 8 years now. And I've
Eight
always been
years.
8 years. Yeah, been quite some time. Even before Teams even existed, right? I always been in the partner space. So Microsoft does most of its business through Microsoft certified partners. And for the past 4 years, I've been mainly focusing on what we call internally is the modern workplace. And in my role, I really look at trends in the market and opportunities in the market, and also the needs of our customers. And I'm sure we'll talk about it a bit today of what I'm seeing. And then I'm looking at partners. What are they building on top of our Microsoft technology, and how do I connect those two worlds? And then now my main focus is on Teams.
Yeah. Interesting space. Now, over the past, I guess the past 12, 18 months, as we all know, the Teams usage numbers has skyrocketed to extraordinary levels. Now, I'm sure you'll be able to share the figures in a more accurate detail than what I can. But what's interesting to me is the fact that, and I was talking to Mark Cashman the other day as well on a previous episode, and we were talking about how traditionally organizations' entry point into Office 365, we were talking about, moving email, and Outlook would be the main driver, or email would be the main driver for people to getting in there. Now, are you seeing, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, are you seeing a little bit of a shift in that, where Teams could primarily be the entry point where people are now becoming aware of Office 365 if they weren't already? We're talking chat and meetings because they've had to move to a platform like that.
Yeah, most definitely. I think if we go back 2, 3, maybe 4 years, it was all about the transition to the cloud, right? People still had their on-premise services and servers, and their email still on-prem. And then we saw that shift going to the cloud, and definitely the entry point there was Office 365. And like you said, migrating your email and then being able to work anywhere you want to, with the files always accessible with the latest version. I think the last 18, almost 24 months is hard to believe, but has definitely changed that. Right, people started looking for ways to stay connected, right? And a lot of them chose Teams. I think the latest number is 250 million daily users, which is an insane number.
Huge.
And a lot of people started using Teams for that. And initially and I'm sure we'll talk about it. Initially, just for video conferencing, right? How do I stay connected to my peers and my friends and people that I need to work with, my customers, my partners? And they were looking for a video conferencing solution, and a lot of them chose Teams. So Teams has definitely become that entry point, and I'm starting to see a big shift also, where it used to be just video conferencing, but now people are actually approaching Teams more from a platform perspective, with chat, with the different applications that you can load. I mean, we have thousands, as you know, thousands and thousands of different applications out of the box already in Teams, which are not even Microsoft application. But if you are a Salesforce user or whatever app you're using, it's probably already in the Teams store. So now Teams is more of a platform than just a video conferencing tool.
I guess we're seeing that also. We'll probably see more of that with the introduction of obviously Viva, and there's connections and learning and that type of thing. I guess there's going to be more organizations making use of the platform as a whole, thinking about, now we're using it for chat and for video. What else can we use it for, I guess? What do you see, or what aspects and features of Teams do you see, organizations using the most?
Most definitely still video conferencing and chat,
Yeah.
right? And then collaboration.
Yeah.
And so being able to collaborate in the document like they were already used to in Office 365, but now they could do it either natively in Teams or from the SharePoint, which is what happens behind the scenes in your file section in Teams. And then the next steps are most definitely voice. So being able to call from the Teams application with your own phone number to other phone numbers. And I think this is really going to be the year of voice, where we're going to really seeing that shift more and more. I think Viva is turned out to be pretty amazing, right? With, like you said, connections, but also with insights. I think now the big challenge that a lot of companies are having is they kind of lost control of how their employees are doing, right? And we spoke a little bit about it before the show. People are starting to get tired, right? They're starting to get tired because they're used to being in their home office, if they even have their own home office, right? I'm in an old closet.
Yeah, I was just
right?
about to say we were talking.
Yeah,
explain where are you?
Yeah, with way too many devices. And this used to be the place where we had all the kids' toys and stuff. Yeah. Right now, it's my quote unquote office, and there are a lot of people, like my neighbor. She's still working at a kitchen table. One of my peers is still working in his bedroom, right? And we're seeing that people are able to do 100% of their work in 60% of the time. Yet a lot of people are still going to try and make those 8 hours or whatever's on their contract a day, which is really causing more stress and burnout related symptoms. And I think Viva Insights is a great way to get data insights of how people are doing to make them more actionable for all the HR departments. So I think it's Teams. It's becoming more of a platform than just that chat or video conferencing application.
When you talk about insights there, and there's obviously a couple of different flavors there. There's the personal side, but then there's also from a manager perspective. So a manager can get an overview of how his or her team are doing as well. Do you think there's, especially insights, do you think there's usage in both situations there?
Most definitely. Just to make it real practical, I go to Insights or My Analytics, as we used to call it, My Analytics, almost weekly to look at my own behavior, right? So I look at how many meetings am I on? How many meetings am I on with a lot of people? How much am I multitasking in those meetings, right? And this gives me an idea of, am I doing the right things, yes or no? If I'm on a lot of meetings with a lot of people, often my impact is very low. So maybe I have to watch a recording of those meetings and be more effective with my time, right? Am I working too many after hours? That could be a sign, right? Am I multitasking too much? That means that something isn't right and I can fix it. Now with Insights, we also are introducing the virtual commute, which strangely enough, I have a 25 to 30 minute commute to the office. And in Microsoft, it's fairly open. You can kind of determine when you do and don't want to work. So there's not a lot of traffic, for me at least. But I know people that are stuck in traffic every day, or were stuck in traffic every day, and they actually like not being in the car anymore. However, that commute was also the time to switch off your brain and make that transition from work to home. And people are now starting to miss it, right? So we're introducing this thing called virtual commute, where you can really just switch off your brain, just check off all the tasks that you needed to do. Maybe write down some stuff that you need to do tomorrow, so you don't have to keep that in your head. And then we're offering some meditation or mindfulness through Headspace, which is the biggest online meditation platform or mindfulness platform, just to switch off your brain before transitioning from work to home, which is often just 1 or 2 steps away, and instead of being in the car. Right. So I look at the My Analytics, the personal stuff, quite a lot. And then from an organizational perspective, it's super interesting to look at trends. And there you cannot see the individual, right? So my manager cannot see, oh, Michel is working too many after hours. What he can see is the team is making too many after hours, or there's not a lot of collaboration. And if there's not a lot of collaboration, there often isn't a lot of innovation in the company. Right. So I think those trends in the data is super important to give these nudges to really drive innovation, growth, but also well-being in an organization.
You touched on an interesting point there around after hours. I mean, is there such a thing as after hours anymore? With people working. Actually, before we hit the record button, we were talking about how work has changed. And that probably does also relate to the hours that people are working. Whether it is early mornings, late at night, or whatever the case may be. If they need to do homeschooling, for example, during the day, also on the flip side of that, organizations are starting to realize that and managers and executives, I guess, starting to realize they don't need to micromanage or really, and the trust is now there with their employees as well.
Yeah, I think it used to be managing by control. Now it's more management by trust. And like you said, the concept of work has changed so much. A couple of years ago, 2 years ago, when I used to say I'm going to work, that meant stepping into the car and going into an office, whether that's the Microsoft office or a customer or a Microsoft partner. That's what work meant, or going to work meant. Now means going to work means a set of activities, right? So you're doing things instead of going somewhere. So I think that's a big change. In the first few months of the pandemic, we could really see that people were logging on earlier and logging off later, because they felt the need to prove that they were actually working while sitting at home. And I think that's slowly changing. And people are starting to like it. If we look at some of the research that we're doing with our work trend index, we're seeing that people are actually enjoying the fact that they can be home. They can be fully be themselves, right? I'm here, so you can't see it, but I'm here in shorts, no socks, right? I would never do that going to the...
Sounds like my attire.
Right, yeah, right. So they enjoy that. They enjoy being around their family, picking up their kids from school, taking them to school. They enjoy being around their pets, right? They enjoy being able to step out and run some errands or whatever you need to do. So that's a big plus. But now I think we need to make the shift more to asynchronous working. Just an example, right? I always take my kids to school in the morning. Summer break now, but usually I take my kids to school in the morning. So I don't start my work day until 9-ish, right? 9-ish, 9:30-ish. That's when my first meetings are. However, I have someone that on my team that enjoys working very early. They like to start at 6, but end a little bit early, right? So you don't always have to be working in the at the same times to get work done, right? So what I'm seeing now that we're working more async is thinking we can get more stuff done, and the meeting part of it is becoming a lot more efficient. So whereas you often needed like 45 minutes or maybe 60 minutes to have a meeting, now we're using meetings just as a decision moment.
Yeah.
Right. So it's okay. So let's work on the strategy of whatever. Okay. So what work does that bring along with it? And what decisions do we need to make? Do we need to make? We can already start doing the work and really approach meetings more from a life cycle perspective, right? So there's a before, during, and after. And before, you can do all the pre-work, and then during the meeting, you can really start making decisions or come up with action points to do next. And then after the meeting, you can follow up on those. So you don't have to be in meetings for hours and hours and hours long. And you can basically do most of the work in your own time, and then meet for like 5 or 10 minutes to really make decisions on what needs to happen next.
Yeah, and on that async point, what about what do you see, or how do you handle, or your team handle that asynchronous type of activity? Let's say we've got some people that want to work early in the morning. Some people prefer to work late at night, but we're messaging and whatever time of day it is. And you're not that type of person, so you're receiving messages at really late at night or early hours. And what was interesting, again, I was talking to Megan Strant the other day about this ways of working contract or communication contract or something like along those lines, where as a group we decide what platform we're going to be messaging on or talking, doing that asynchronous work, or what time of day we're going to be messaging. You don't need to respond to messages at certain times if you don't need to, that type of thing. How do you handle that? How does your team handle that?
Right. It's the same, right? Never feel obligated to respond when you receive a message, right? Respect each other's focus time and working hours. And if it's urgent, you can always say, hey, it's urgent. And you'll see that if you give people that freedom, they don't mind replying to a message or following up something during times that it might be a little bit less convenient.
Yeah.
Right. So like I said, I take my kids to school every morning. If I get an urgent message at 8, which is right before I leave, and I know it's urgent, I'll reply, right? Because it's kind of give and take. But at the same time, we did say that, okay, if you get a message now, you don't necessarily have to respond to it now, whether that's coming from a peer or a manager or a GM or even Satya, who doesn't email often, by the way, I can tell you. But you don't have to reply immediately. Just do it whenever you're working, and whenever you're working, that's basically up to you.
Yeah,
and the technology is helping with that as well, right?
It is,
we spoke about My Analytics a little bit. What My Analytics does or can do is that if I send one of my peers a message, and they might be in another time zone, right? So if I would send somebody in Australia a message, and I think you're 12 or 13 hours ahead of me, and it would be in the middle of the night your time, Outlook will suggest to delay the delivery until they start working, right? And I think that's a big thing, to not intrude too much into non-working hours for people. And you can do it in Teams, by the way, as well. Maybe we should talk about Power Automate a little bit later. But you can do it in Teams as well, to have delayed deliveries of your messages, to make sure that they get delivered when somebody's actually working. That's what I find. And got to be careful that I'm not going on a rant here, but that's what I find interesting about the concept of email. Right, so email always get delivered. Now, what if email gets delivered when it's the right time to be delivered? Right, so when I do email, and I only do email once or twice a day, right? My inbox is always at 0, but I only do email once or twice a day. What if I only get email during those times, right? Or at the time that I actually decide to go work on email, right? So, and I think the technology is slowly starting to adjust to that as well. Leveraging what we call the Microsoft Graph with all the data points, where we can track, obviously not on an individual personal level, but the graph can track when somebody is working or not.
Yeah, definitely interesting, that particular topic, for sure. Now, you mentioned zero inbox. Now, that's got to be a myth, doesn't it? Now, you've been on vacation recently.
Yes.
You're only a couple of days back, and you wrote. I was reading an article of yours about how or some methods that you use when you come back to work to catch up or get on top of everything that you've missed during that time off, because you're probably like most, where you just switch everything off, devices off, messages off, emails off, all that type of thing. Now, I like to, I guess, give viewers, listeners, some practical things that they can take away from these type of interviews that can help them in their day-to-day life and how they manage things. So when you came back to work, give us a little bit of an insight into the processes that you take to get on top of that.
Right. So people receive just tens and hundreds of emails sometimes a day, right? We're seeing a big shift, right? Going from Teams or from Outlook or email into Teams, luckily. So that's one. But I still received a lot of email, not from my direct team because we work fully in Teams, but also from customers, partners, maybe people from other teams that are emailing me. So I think I had about 400 or 500 unread emails in my mailbox. And coming back from vacation, which is the time to switch off, I think you kind of slowly want to ease into working again, right? Which was more difficult, to be honest, more difficult for me this year around than it was other years. And I think that's because again, concept of work has changed, and the difference between my day last Friday and my day on Monday was just walking upstairs and walking into, as we call it, the work closet here in the house. Right, so that was the only difference. So I want the experience to be smooth. So I have this thing that I always use, not just when I come back from vacation, and it's called Inbox Zero, and it's based on getting things done from David Allen.
Ah,
And what it
yes. Yep.
essentially is, it's your inbox is always at 0 emails, and you only have a couple of folders. Right, so I have a internal folder, so all my internal email comes in that folder. That basically helps me prioritize everything that's external over internal, because external supposedly is only customers and partners, right? So that's most important. And I have an action folder. I'll get into the details of them in a bit. I have a wait folder, and I have an archive. And those are the only folders that I have. Right? So I used to have tens of folders, 20 folders with customer names or teams or whatever, and just move all these emails into the folders. I stopped using those a long time ago, because basically you never go back to them. Right? And if you need to search something, the search functionality in Outlook, it works very well, and you'll always find the email you need. So what I do is, so when I came back on Monday and opened my Outlook for the first time, I don't start working on these emails. I just start processing them and organizing them. So what I do is I open an email, I read it, see if there's an action for me, or if it's just to inform me. If it's only to inform me, I move it to the archive. Boom. If there's an action for me, I move it to action. That's what I did on my first day, and I'll get to what I do in my regular day to day in a minute. And then I just started moving all these emails to the right folder: action, archive, action, archive, action, action, archive. And you'll see that you'll be able to archive about 60 to 70% of those emails that were sent to you, right? Because it's usually only to inform you, and you've been informed if you just read through it. Then I've set, and I did that prior to my vacation, I've set 3 hours of focus time just to go through the action emails, right? And I don't really prioritize. I just start at the bottom and then just start working my way up. But the inbox always stays at 0. Now, people might say I use my inbox to have all my action emails in, right? But what that does to your brain is, once you open your Outlook, your brain will register all those emails over and over and over again. And your brain is basically just like computer memory, right? Like RAM. It gets full. So having an inbox 0 at 0 really helps you to have that not have that stress of that full email. Now, what I do on my day to day, if I get emails, right, and I used to block 2 or 3 times a day just to process, and then one moment a day to go through the action items. What I do now is, if I go on my phone or in my Outlook app on the desktop, I start moving the emails. If I see an action that takes less than 2 minutes, I do it right away, so that's off my plate. Right, but other than that, I move them straight into the different folders. So only 4 or 5 folders. Inbox always at 0. Don't do the action ones right away. Process them first, and then schedule some time for the actions.
Part of I've read a little bit about the G2D stuff as well, and a lot of the part of that is the next actions process. Do you go to the level of like, I'm at my computer now, these are the actions I should be taking or can take while I'm sitting at my computer or while I'm on my phone?
Not in the detail that David Allen describes it, right? So if you haven't read the book, he literally has, if he needs to, if there's an action for him to make a phone call, he writes it on a piece of paper that's next to his phone, right? So when he gets to his phone, he does all the phone stuff, right? I am very, I am very strict on when I do what, though, right? So I do plan time to work on action items in email. So right after this recording, I'm going into my email to do actions, right? And that's scheduled. It's scheduled. I use, again, my analytics or FIFA Insights to make sure that I have automatic focus time on my calendar for 1 or 2 hours a day. Right, and this is the time that I go through my action items in email. So I don't do it the way that David Allen describes it in his book. but I am very thoughtful about what am I doing when.
In addition to that, I've got a feeling you are one that would use other applications or other services out of 365 to help you, whether it's automate things or stay on top of things. And again, you published some content, I can't remember when it was, but around Power Automate templates
Right.
for with Microsoft Teams, let's say. So have you got any that you still use? I mean, Power Automate's often thought of as more of an organizational type workflow application, but there's a lot of personal time saving things that can be utilized out of Power Automate as well, just for normal information workers.
Yeah, so maybe to explain the ways you can have apps or flows in Teams, it's kind of
Yeah.
3 different categories, right? So one is everything that's out of the box, right? So if you click on the 3 dots on your navigation bar on Teams on the left, you select apps and you'll find thousands and thousands of apps. That's one. 2 is build your own applications based on the SDKs that we have. Right, you can build your own applications from the ground up. You probably need developers that know code. It doesn't matter what they use, JavaScript, C#, whatever. There's an SDK that they can start building their own apps. The third one, which kind of sits in the middle, is using the Power Platform, right? So, which is Power Apps to build your own applications, Power Automate to build flows. We'll get into that. Power BI, which a lot of people are familiar with, and then Power Virtual Agents to create your own bots. Now, you might think creating my own stuff, that goes a step too far because I just don't have the skill or knowledge. This, however, is it's you can kind of click everything together. So you can create your own chatbots in Power Virtual Agents in just a few seconds or few minutes, right? So you can connect all kind of things together. You could, for example, create a flow of a conversation, right? So, and hey, I want to schedule time off. Okay, so when do you want to schedule time off? Maybe a better example how I used it. We have this service called Scheduler.
Yeah.
Right. So what Scheduler does, it kind of takes away all the planning that you need to do in your Outlook calendar. So if you and I want to have a meeting, I don't go to you and ask when are you available. I let Cortana take care of it, and that goes through a service named Scheduler. What I've built is my own bot, and again, it's not, if you kind of know Excel, you'll understand Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agent. So I've created my own chatbot where I can say, I want to have a meeting with Daniel. This is his email address, and I want to have it next Wednesday. I press enter, and the bot takes care of everything by themselves, right? Now, if we go to Power Automate is really to automate basically everything that you can automate. And an example, let's say you have a governance in your organization where you do not allow people to create their own teams in Teams. Right? And quite a few companies have this. You could say, let me create a form. You could use forms in Office 365. Let me create a form. Once somebody fills out that form, which has their name, the name of the team they want to create, the reason why they want to create the team, and maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Once they fill out the form, the IT admin gets notification of the person that wants to create a team, and they can approve it straight away in the Teams application through a bot. If they click approve, the team automatically gets provisioned, and the requester becomes the admin of the team. You can create stuff like that in Power Automate. Now, there are also a lot of templates that you can use for personal productivity, and there's a couple that I like to use. I like to use delayed reply, which is one. So if you go to flow.microsoft.com and you click on templates, and it doesn't only have a Microsoft app, so you can, even if you're a Slack user, even right, or WebEx user, or whatever user, there are flows for that in those templates. But in the Teams example, you go to flow.microsoft.com, click on templates, search for Teams, and you'll find delayed delivery. What that does is, once I send a message and I hit delay delivery, I can delay delivery into a few hours, for example, right? So if I'm, again, back to the concept we spoke about earlier, if I am working late at night, 8, 9 o'clock, and I don't want a message to be delivered right away, but I want it to be delivered 12 hours later, I can do that through Power Automate. Another one I like is schedule a meeting with a sender. So let's say you send me a message on Teams. I simply click the 3 dots next to the chat message that you sent, and I select schedule a meeting with sender. And these are standard templates in Power Automate. You don't have to do any coding. You don't have to set anything up yourself besides just setting up your credentials, right? But everything, it happens automatically, and it automatically gets put into your Teams application as well. Another one that I like is the set reminder option. So again, you send me a message, but I'm not able to respond right away, but I don't want to forget about it. I can set a reminder for, let's say, 20 minutes. And then 20 minutes later, I'll get a notification saying, hey, Michel, you got an email, you got this message from Daniel, and you still need to reply to it. And all of this comes out of the box. So those are a couple: delayed reply, schedule a meeting with sender, set reminder. And if you're a manager, especially this time of the year, or this time, we're seeing a lot of people starting to shift roles or shift companies even, right? That's also an interesting part. Going back a little bit, is 80% of all managers, all CEOs are saying that they'll have a work from home policy implemented in their company, right? So if you look at the run on talent, right, and there's a big run on talent, there's scarcity of talent. The talent is going to look for companies that they want to work for because they offer these kind of policies. Back to Power Automate, if you have somebody new on the team, you can automatically send a welcome message to this new team member. So if now you have a new team member, so Daniel, you're coming into Microsoft, which I would like, by the way, but you're coming into Microsoft, you're going to be on my team, you'll get a message saying, hey, Daniel, welcome to the channel sales team. These are all the members of the team. You might want to look at these files first to give you an idea of what we're doing here. And feel free to schedule a coffee with everyone that you want to schedule a coffee with. You can do that automatically through Power Automate, through these templates.
And the good thing about Power Automate is that it is, as you said before, it is really the power's in the user's hands. They don't have to go to IT or a dev or anything like that to be able to create those workflows now. One of the ones that I'm using a hell of a lot of now, I use Microsoft To Do quite a lot.
Right.
Creating tasks. You mentioned before about setting scheduling reminders about messages. I do a similar thing with creating a task. So you can click on the 3 little dots now, click create task, and it adds a task to your to-do list. All of those types of productivity things, I think, I guess it's just lack of awareness, I think, in the platform that a lot of users aren't saving themselves that much time. Even in terms of outside of Teams, we've got lists now. So all of those, the rules and everything like that a user can now just basically go and create that out of the UI themselves is really powerful and saves people so much time.
Yeah, I agree. I use a lot of Planner nowadays.
Yeah.
Right. So what I do with Planner is I have 4 different buckets. You can create buckets in Teams. It's basically for project management, but I use it for individual productivity. So I have I have a bucket for to-dos. I have a bucket for this week, today, and then what's the other one? Done. That's the last one. So if something pops into my head that I need to do, I put it in the to-do bucket, and then each week I move the to-dos from the to-do bucket to the this week bucket, and then each day I move them from this week to today. And then I start working on them during those focus hours that I spoke on a little bit earlier.
So why Planner over To Do for your personal stuff?
I don't know. And to be honest, if we're looking at the direction that we're moving in Microsoft with To Do, I might switch back really soon. Also with the To Do app and what we're doing with Windows 11. Being able to get them into To Do straight from the Teams application, I might switch back to Do really soon.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess a similar thing that I do, but I do it in to do, right? So I'll have different
Right.
lists for different things as well, rather than just buckets. But personal preference, I guess, as well.
Yeah, most definitely, and that's what I like about. We didn't talk about Fluent Framework, right? So with Fluent
No, how
Framework,
good does that look? Yeah,
yeah. So with Fluent Framework, and we announced it I think a couple of years ago, and it's now going to be available in Teams.
yeah,
But with Fluent Framework, you can basically type anything anywhere in any application, and it'll update in real time in whatever application you're working in. So just to make it real practical, let's say you're scheduling a meeting, right? You'll soon be in Teams. Soon you'll be able to go down in the calendar field and select Add Calendar, right? So when you click that, it opens up a field where you can start adding your calendar and your notes and your actions.
yeah.
What that really is, it's OneNote, right? So you can now edit it in either OneNote or in the Teams meeting. So once you open the Teams, once the meeting starts, you'll see all of that in the right bar where you usually see the participants or the chat, right? And so people can start editing. Either they want to edit it in OneNote, or they want to edit it in Word, or they want to edit it in Excel, or they want to edit in Teams. Wherever they want to edit, they can edit from anywhere, and it updates in real time. It can also translate in real time, which is insane if you look at it. I've
Mm.
seen 50 different screens open with 50 different languages in different applications, and it updates in real time when you're typing. It's insane. So the power of the Fluent framework, and I think you'll see more of it during Ignite, September, October. That's going to be very powerful, and then it doesn't really matter in which application somebody likes to work because it's everywhere.
Mm. So where's that? If you're allowed to say, where's that? When's that slated to be released?
I'm not
Or
sure. I know that
GA?
we showed some of the Fluid stuff
Yeah,
at last Ignite.
last Ignite.
So what
Yeah.
was that? April, I think. And I think it's coming really soon. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the GA date yet.
Yeah,
But that's super exciting. The power of
it
Fluid,
is.
I think people don't really understand yet how powerful that's going to be.
Mm. Now, before we wrap things up here, I just wanted to get your, as much as you can, tell us what, looking forward, what's exciting you the most that's coming to Teams in terms of, if I focus on personal productivity side of things.
Mhm.
What are you seeing that's going to be again game changing in this space?
Mm. Let me start with a more macro concept first, right? And which is the hybrid work environment. And you spoke about it on the last episode, I believe. Just the whole concept of hybrid work is something that's going to be really exciting.
Mm.
And that goes, if you're talking about actionable low hanging fruit, start thinking about the way that your meeting rooms are set up, right? So traditionally, we're all on these square tables together, and everybody's kind of looking at each other. And then if you have somebody that's dialing in virtually, they're usually a fly in the wall, somewhere on the screen, or maybe on a we call them a pancake. I don't know why, these small speakers that you have on your
Yeah.
desk. But somebody's really a fly in the wall. Now think about the concept of hybrid meetings where 30 to 60% of the people in the meeting are going to be not in the room itself.
Mm.
Right? So think about the way that you're going to set up your rooms more in a instead of being all around one table, make it more of an open space where now the person that's dialing in virtually is actually part of that circle. Right? So I think that's one. I'm super excited about what's going to happen to webinars, the webinar functionality and what's coming there. And there's a lot of stuff coming for breakout rooms, which is really, really great. I think Fluid is going to play a very big role.
How are you actually on breakout rooms? How are you seeing that? I get how big that is in education. How do you see that practically being used in business?
So I think having a learn it all culture is very important in your
Yeah,
organization, right? So a lot of companies are still know it all,
yeah,
but we try to be learn it all. and continuously learn. So what we often do, let's say, so I'm thinking about putting together this think tank where we're together with hopefully you, customers, partners, Microsoft employees, thought leaders, whatever. Going to think about this new concept of meetings, right? We can all be in a main session together, and then we can do small breakout rooms to think about different parts of that concept.
Yeah.
Right. And that's happening more and more, where people just want to break out, not just in a educational session, setting, but also in just a general business setting. And the stuff that we're doing with breakout rooms, which is coming in version 2, is exciting. Teams 2.0 is very exciting as well. I think we just released the public preview in Windows 11.
Yeah.
Right. That's only a small portion of what's coming next, which I think is very exciting stuff.
Yeah, definitely. There's an unbelievable amount of things that are coming. That's for sure. Now, as we wrap things up, where you also host your own podcast, you're very, very vocal and active on the socials and publishing a lot of amazing content as well. Mm-hmm. So for everybody listening that wants to follow along with what you're doing, you release, and you mention a lot of stuff that is coming, that is being launched through Teams as well, and you're one of my main resources to check in on as well. With what's coming in Teams. Where can people, first of all, follow you or engage with you as well?
Yeah, so the easiest thing is LinkedIn, right? Yeah. So find me on LinkedIn. That's the stuff where I post the most. I try to do YouTube, but I'm not as good at it as you are. You are actually my big example when it comes to the YouTube stuff. But there is a YouTube channel. Maybe we can link it somewhere. So it's youtube.com/ Michel Bouman MSFT. But LinkedIn is the easiest way. Feel free to send me a DM if there's anything I can help with, or that you need to know, or if you need any guidance. But that's the stuff where I'm posting the most.
You've got a cool little video on your LinkedIn profile too, I noticed the other day.
You like that? You mean with the profile?
Yeah, with the profile.
Yeah, that's something new that they're implementing. So now you can have videos behind your profile picture. So if people hover over your profile picture, you can show a short video, and I have a short video of what you can expect of me when you start. So I have a creator account on LinkedIn. I think that's something new as well.
Yeah.
So you can not only connect, but you can also follow. So if you don't want to connect, you can follow, similar to what you do on, for instance, Twitter. But if you want to follow or connect, you can always look at that little video and see what I can bring you. For me, and I learned this from you, I actually stole your phrase, is adding as an insane amount of value to the people that are coming over to look at my content. Right? And that's what I use.
I think that's really important, because I mean we were talking about a lot of features or things in the Office 365 platform that I guess you and I and others that work in that industry sort of take for granted, I guess. But I still see people struggling to share files, let alone, dabbling in automating things through Power Automate. So I guess that's the reason, and I'm sure you're the same. That's the reason I do a lot of that sort of stuff as well. Yeah,
maybe 2 quick tips before we wrap up. Please, if you share your screen, right? Do not go. So you have to share tray, the new one. Share tray. You can share your screen, and you'll share your whole full screen. I still hear people say, "I'm sorry, I cannot see the chat or your reactions because I'm sharing my screen." Right? It happens. It happens. Yes, do not share your screen. Do not share the window. Not too many people have 4, 5, 6 screens like you and I have. Right? Don't share a window. Just use PowerPoint Live. Scroll all the way down. Select the PowerPoint file. If you don't see it, select upload from OneDrive or select upload from my computer. What this does, it streams your PowerPoint presentation from the cloud. It saves you 90% of bandwidth. That's a very important one.
Yeah.
The quality of the presentation, what you're showing, not the way you're presenting it, but what you're showing is higher. You can still see the chat. You can still see all the videos. And plus, you can see your own speaker notes. So next time you share a PowerPoint file, go to the share tray and select your file a little bit down in the share tray. The other one, which I like to do, is turn on the transcription.
Yep.
Right? Turn on the transcription for a couple of reasons. I don't always attend meetings. We have quite a few community calls, and I just don't always have the time. So you can record them and then you can rewatch them. Or you can turn on the transcription and you can read them afterwards. And that's a lot more effective. So what you can do, what you'll have soon is what we call the meeting recap. Right? So you can go back to the meeting and you'll see all the files that were shared through PowerPoint Live. You will see the recording and you'll see the transcription. So now you can just read through it instead of following the whole meeting. Back to the concept of async working. I think that's a big one that people can really start with today. Hit record, hit start transcription. Soon that'll be 2 separate things you can click. Not sure if I was allowed to say that, but I did. So you can do only the transcription.
It's not recorded. You'll be
Good.
right.
Yeah, it's only you and I, right? And it also helps me during the meetings. So when I am in a meeting, I also look at the transcription for some reason. And from a cognitive perspective, it works a lot better during these meetings. So 2 tips. If you share PowerPoint, go to the share tray, come down on the share tray, select your PowerPoint file. If you don't see it, upload it either from your OneDrive or from my computer. The second one is turn on the transcription so you can read them afterwards.
Well, next episode, we're going to have one that's just full of those tips. Maybe we can bring 10 from my side, 10 from your side, and we'll do a whole episode on that.
Let's do it. I would love to.
Amazing work, mate.
And thank you for all the amazing work that you're doing. Like I said, I go to you for stuff that I'm sometimes not even aware of. This little feature that you found somewhere in whatever application that I've never seen before, that is just a game changer to me. So I always go to your videos as well. So thanks for everything that you're doing for the community.
Thanks, mate. Really, really appreciate it. And once again, a lot of value there. You shared a lot of stuff that I know all the people watching and listening will take that away and start implementing as well. So once again, thank you very much, mate. And we will schedule that next episode very, very shortly.
Let's do it. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, mate.